Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Breaking the Game podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Stephen Gillespie, and I have Jeff Hunt and Chris LeBron of the Off the Ball Network, the network that I'm affiliated with as well. This is my vice president and my president. Before we get going, just if you can, just keep Austin Carr, who is my normal co-host, his family in your thoughts and prayers. He had an emergency come up with his family. I don't have any details, and even if I did, I don't think it's right for me to divulge here. But yeah, just keep him in your thoughts and prayers. But he would want us to continue with this show. I already got the blessing from him. We got a fun episode lined up, and we're excited to get going. But before we get into that, Jeff, the vice president of the Off the Ball Network, at least one of them. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me on the show. I was looking forward to meet Austin. I hope everything's going good. I think the fact that we got his blessing is a good sign. So I'm happy about this. It's fun to be on because it's fun to be like a non-basketball expert. I'm a basketball lover. I'm not
Correct.
but I'm not an expert like you two. So I'm gonna BS my way through this, and I got all kinds of questions to ask. But I'm happy to be on the show. I'm always happy to work with my Off the Ball Network crew, and we're gonna have a good time. Thanks for inviting me.
And thank you for coming. I know that you kind of twisted my arm on live one of our live shows and said that I haven't invited you to be on the show yet. But we had to get you on, and I did get a little bit of a chance to preview your work.
Then you upstage me.
Upstage.
Bring Chris on, man.
Well, again, we're going to have three people on today.
I'm coming off the bench.
Yeah. Speaking of
Dion Waiters.
Speaking of Dion Waiters, we have Chris LeBron, who's the president of the Off the Ball Network, joining us. Decided to, grace us with his presence last minute, coming in high off of a win in college football with the Miami Hurricanes. He's feeling himself a little bit this morning. Chris, how's it going, brother?
I'm good. How you guys doing? Excited to be on.
Yeah, we're gonna have some fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we got a very fun topic, and today's topic, we don't have a lot of news to get into. Austin and I covered that a couple days ago. Today's just going to be a fun show. We're in the off season, so we get to, kind of stray away from just focusing on the games themselves. But we're going to talk about the way too early power rankings. We don't have a free agency period that's happened yet. The draft is around the corner. That hasn't happened yet. So we're just talking, kind of gut check feeling. Who do we see coming into next season as the contenders in the heavyweights, when we have it split by conference, right? The East and the West, and just looking forward to a very fun show. And without further ado, let's kind of get going here with the way too early power rankings for the Eastern Conference. All right, so I developed this graphic just so you guys know. Jeff is kind of my mentor in a way, kind of indirectly. He inspires me. I want to be just like him when I grow up.
He's the head of graphics at Off the Ball.
He's the head of graphics. So today I kind of took a stab at it. I made this graphic all by myself. I'm basically drawing the colors, and I'm, being trained by Bob Ross here. So, so we're going to talk about the Eastern Conference, right? Number one, I have the Boston Celtics, Chris, what's your take on the Boston Celtics coming into next season? Where do you see them? Do you agree with them being number one? Do I have them a little too high in your take? Where do you have them?
I mean, that's not really crazy to think that they could be the best team going into next year. I mean, they were in the conference finals this year, and they lost to a red hot Miami Heat team. So that's definitely not shocking that they would be number one. I mean, they got Jason Tatum, who's a emerging superstar. Jaylen Brown definitely showed out. Marcus Smart, Kemba Walker healthy. If Kemba Walker is healthy next year, I mean that's big. And also Hayward, they got some young guys too that are developing. They may have to upgrade the bigs. They may need to get another big.
That was going to be my question to you guys. That's my first question.
Because that definitely might have been a little bit of a weak spot, especially going against Miami. The size. They just couldn't really hang with Miami with that, but yeah, Boston, obviously they have everything. They have all the tools in order to be a championship team coming out of the East. So it doesn't surprise me that they're in the top of the two early, because I think, I would probably put them there along with Miami and, Milwaukee, Brooklyn, Toronto, that's definitely number one's not a bad spot for them right now.
Okay. Jeff, you said you had a question. Go ahead, brother.
Well, that was my question. That was my. I was going to ask you guys what you thought the biggest hole was in Boston. Like they kept them out of the finals last year, and I was thinking big man. Chris kind of alluded to it right there. So,
Mhm.
but the thing I think that they have is coaching is huge, and we talked about it. We've had so many discussions about this over the last couple of months of these games, and we all agreed that what Boston did best was bring a guy in and then coach him to his ability and his talent. And that's, when we look at Marcus Smart, the player he's becoming, and Tatum,
Mhm.
like he coaches them to their abilities and gets them to, to play as a unit. Kemba Walker even, got better, and he's a veteran. And that's what I wondered about the big man. Like, so just how do you guys how do you fix that? Like, I'm not the expert that you guys are. Like, can they get a big man? Is there one out there?
Well, there's several, right? And what they did, just in this last offseason, they added Enos Cantor, who, in certain matchups he fares well, but there's certain matchups where if he's involved in the pick and roll at all, he's a complete
You
liability.
can't play him in the fourth quarter on defense because he's just a liability on the defensive end.
Right. And then they have, a young Robert Williams coming off the bench. He looks like he's kind of on the up and up. Brad Stevens gave him a lot of trusted minutes in the Toronto series, especially, which, kind of took a lot of experts by surprise. So, he could be on the up and up. And then Daniel Tice, I think they milked about every ounce of, potential or effort or production out of him. And, the problem with him, Chris alluded to it earlier, was the size. When he was matched up against Bam Adebayo, there's really
that was
nothing.
the biggest mismatch in the series was Bam, right? That was the difference. I mean, I think so. Just real quick, if Hayward comes in, like, he's there the whole time and part of the team the whole time, do they take out the Heat?
It's tough to say. One, if the Heat's going to be there because of the amount of free agents that they have, right? They have Nunn and Dragic going to hit free agency. It's going to be really tough to see where the Heat come back next season, right? And Boston they have a few draft picks. If I'm not mistaken, Chris, I think they have 3 draft picks?
Yeah, I think they have 3 in the first round. Yeah,
right. And a couple of them are lower ended, right? And
I think they have the last pick in the lottery, I believe, or the 14th to 15th pick.
Oh, wow.
Lottery.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they have a couple late first.
So they could add, a center by committee even in this draft if they felt that there were guys in there that they could trust moving forward with the guys that they have. So
they got to upgrade that bench, man. The bench, I mean, they got to get better minutes because Sammy Ojale and Watermaker, that to me that needs to get upgraded. Unless they're going into next season thinking that Romeo Langford and Carson Edwards, their draft picks this year,
and Williams too. Williams got some
Robert,
minutes.
yeah. If those guys can take those minutes, because I think you could get better minutes, better production than Watermaker and Sammy Ojale, because they weren't all that great in this bubble playoffs. So they definitely need to upgrade with the bench because the bench was kind of iffy.
So
quick question: if you have Chris and Jeff, both of you, you can just kind of thumbs up, thumbs down. Would you trade Gordon Hayward for Steven Adams to kind of give them a competent center?
No,
you wouldn't.
No, and I'm basing that all on what I just saw in the playoffs. I would have probably said yes before they started, but when I see guys like the difference in the finals in the East, where Duncan Robinson and Hero and stuff, guys that could wingman and stuff, or whatever, you guys have different positions, but like guys that can shoot and run, do more. That makes me lean towards a guy like Hayward as opposed to an Adams. That's just my.
Adams clogs up the paint too, and like when you have slashers like Jaylen Brown and Tatum that need that
sometimes
spacing
in the way.
You need spacing, right? And
Mhm.
Adams isn't really a rim protector. Like he's a good screener. He can, he's a good rebounder, but he's not going to really protect the rim that much. So I think Hayward, when he played, when he came back, I mean, he's a good playmaker, right? When he first came back, from injury, he was making plays, and I think they could find a way to still implement him and him still be productive because he's still a good player. I just think he's just got to stay healthy. I mean, that's the biggest thing is health. If he stays healthy, I think he's still a valuable piece to that team. that could do damage for sure. So I don't know about that
Okay.
trade. That trade doesn't really. I think they can find a cheaper option too, like maybe through the draft or something, a way to get a guy that could be a little bit more of a rim protector than Adams.
Yeah, like a Nick Richards coming out of Kentucky, right? Moving on
I think
here,
he's got a lot of potential, Nick Richards too.
I like him a lot.
Yeah.
It's especially late value guy. Right, moving on here, we have I have number 2, the Brooklyn Nets. This is probably one of the more polarizing teams coming into next season. They got a brand new head coach and and it's Steve Nash, a brand new head coach and Steve Nash. They have 2 of the most polarizing players in the NBA on the same team with KD and Irving. They got a couple of young guys that may be on the move for another star. There's a lot to like about what the Brooklyn Nets have in front of them, especially in the Eastern Conference. Jeff, how do you feel about me having Brooklyn here?
I'm surprised. I thought I was crazy when I put them up there because I know when guys come off injuries, I'm notoriously like hard on them. Oh, there you go. You can see I had him at 3 right there because I think that I even you can see right there, I got KD as the MVP. Of the East. I think he comes back with health, and I think he's so good that I think he can carry it.
I like that ridiculously early.
What's that? It's crazy. Yeah,
it is ridiculously early.
I love it. That's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I'm honest about my basketball knowledge, but no, I totally agree. I think the Nets can, and I will say I base mine on like the end of the season results, like at the end of the regular season, not who I necessarily think are the best teams, going into the playoffs, because that's a whole different animal. So I didn't want to go that far, but no, I like it. Obviously, I got the Nets at 3.
Okay, Chris, well, you see here that I have Brooklyn at 2. Jeff has them at 3. How are you feeling about Brooklyn coming into next season, especially being a Knicks fan, right? Like you have to find it pretty entertaining to root for Brooklyn.
I think they're 15th. I think they lose 65 games. Last. No. They have the potential to be the best team, right? Because they have Kevin Durant, right? And Kyrie, and even Spencer Dinwiddie and Jared Allen, and obviously Karis LeVert showed out in the bubble. He was great. They got pieces, but it's just a matter of we haven't seen them play together at all, especially Kevin Durant didn't even play this year. Kyrie was missed a lot of time, and they have a new coach, Steve Nash, who's never been a head coach, even though he's one of the greatest point guards of all time, MVP. Coaching is a lot different, obviously. So I think that's a little bit too high right now because just we haven't seen them together, but they have the potential to be 1, 2, 1 or 2.
They may be a team that takes off halfway into the season.
Yeah, I think they'll still start slow. They'll start slow.
Yeah, makes sense. I should have thought about that. So
they'll start off slow because when you got, this usually is the case with a lot. Like we saw the Miami team, right, when they first assembled. They started off 9-8, and then they
learn how to play together.
They learn how to play together, and then they win 27 in a row. So I'm not saying Brooklyn's going to do that, but it all comes down to health, right? It's going to be with a lot of these teams, for sure. Right? It's health. Like Brooklyn is probably the number 1 team where health is like the main thing, because you got Kyrie, who's injury prone, and KD is not injury prone. He just had a major injury. He had a major injury. So
playing while injured too,
So, and like I said, new coaching. We don't know Steve Nash's style. Like we still got to see how that style is. Even though I'm assuming it'd probably be an up-tempo style.
Yeah, we don't know how pick and roll probably. Yeah,
we don't know how the roster is going to look because they may think that they need another guy, right? So they could upgrade or so. So but if we're talking about right now, the ridiculously early power rankings,
correct.
I would put them probably. I would probably have Miami ahead of them and Milwaukee ahead of them. So I'll probably have them in that 4 or 5 range if I had to right now. But they could be 2 or 1. It wouldn't be shocking if they're the a top 2 seed next year.
Well, speaking of having Milwaukee ahead of them, I have Milwaukee 3rd, and this is probably
the biggest difference.
This is the biggest difference from
obviously, you see what I think is going to happen here. I think.
Oh wow!
I think Giannis is leaving.
Okay.
that's what all this hinges on. Like
you have him getting traded, or you
I
have this
I
is
don't
just like they
I
have a
don't
really bad season, then Giannis leaves.
no, I don't know the details. I guess it would be a trade. It'd have to be a
It would
trade.
have to be a trade. Yeah.
Something that's just something feels weird about it, and I think that he's on a different team, by the end of the season. So
Looks like you have him going to Miami here based on your rankings. You have Miami second. Are you feeling him getting
I
traded to
mean,
Miami?
Miami's that's been my
a
dark
little
horse
bit,
spot.
But once again, it's because I don't know anything about it. I'm just gut feeling. I'm like something's going to happen here. I
Right.
just don't see him doing that again in Milwaukee next year. Something just felt weird, especially the way the season ended. So
I can't see them trading him. Even it's like the LeBron thing in Cleveland. Like
full disclosure, I'm sure I'm wrong.
Yeah. But it just hard. It would be so hard to think that they would trade him, even though like they're taking the risk of possibly lose. Like it's the LeBron thing, right? Like
Yeah.
you're taking a risk. Like there's a chance he's gonna leave, but you can't trade him because it's just crazy to think you would trade the best player in the league. So
Right.
it's eerily similar to the Cavs situation with LeBron in 2010.
It's
very,
and,
very
and full
similar.
disclosure, I don't know with this. I know the season doesn't start till like what are we talking like October or February now. I mean, sorry,
Yeah, probably around
right.
that time.
So
Yeah,
I
they're saying
don't.
around Martin Luther King Jr. Day is when
Yeah,
they're looking
once
to
again, that would be a cool day to start. Man, I love
Yeah.
that day of basketball. But so I don't know what the free agent like. I don't know what the schedule is and deadline is. I won't even pretend to. I just assumed that they had more time, to figure some of this stuff out. I know the draft's coming up quick, but the season they've got a few months. So, oh yeah, it's just total gut reaction. But I mean, like,
Hey, you never know.
that's what
happens.
happens. This is what you get when you have a college football.
and that's why it's ridiculously early, right? Like because we
early.
haven't gone through a free agency or the draft yet, and we know during the draft we see a lot of moves happen as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
I use you guys for my draft experts.
Well, appreciate that.
And I'm happy to. I'm happy to enjoy the product that you guys put out.
Right on. Well, I have Milwaukee third here. I think that, obviously I think that Boston takes that next step. Brooklyn's going to be pretty formidable, and like we mentioned earlier, towards the end of the season is really where I kind of see them taking off too. And then in the playoffs, probably pushing past Milwaukee. I have Milwaukee third simply because I'm not a big believer in Coach Bud. Giannis on this team, they're basically, kind of maxed out as far as trade assets and things like that. They have Indiana's first round draft pick this season from the move that they did with Malcolm Brogdon last year. So, I mean, with Giannis and with the depth of this team overall, they're going to probably still be a solid regular season team, probably finish second or third, maybe even first as far as record goes. But in the playoffs, we know that Mike Budenholzer is pretty stubborn in his rotations and in his, strategies and things like that, which is why I'm coming into this season with the Milwaukee only third here.
So when you did your ranking, Steven, did you base them on, let's say, how good you think they are, or would this be how you think at the end of the season the standings will be? I'm just curious.
Well, it's I would say kind of everything mixed in one. How good I think they are on paper.
Okay.
Their kind of previous playoff success and the way that we've seen them be coached, and
So
then
for instance, the Nets, like Chris said, like they get a slow start. The Nets, very might likely be a 4 or 5 seed, but you think that they'll be the second best team in the Eastern Conference, even when
all said and done.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure this out.
No, it's all right. It's kind of like how you do like your weighted power rankings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. On the Off the Ball Network power rankings. Yeah.
Yeah, go check that out, offtheballnetwork.com there.
The college football one's going to start soon. I'm pretty excited, but we'll keep it to NBA.
Can't wait for that. I mean, I talk NBA on your show all the time, so I can let a couple football comments slide. So it's all good. Chris, I have Miami fourth here overall. Jeff has them second, so averages out at third. Where do you have them coming into this next season?
I think if you're talking right now, they have to be 2. I think
they
have to be
nice.
2. Yeah, 2 or 3. They went 6 games against the Lakers, in the finals, and Jimmy Butler definitely, he definitely took that next step, in his game. Bam obviously he probably took 2 steps forward in his game.
Yeah.
He became a bona fide star, and then Duncan played solid, and then you have Tyler Hero emerging, and
Mhm.
they if they can get if none can come in next season and be more consistent. People forget. I mean, he was the runner up for Rookie of the Year. Like he had a
Correct.
pretty good rookie year.
Wow.
So they have everything. Whether Dragic comes back, that's going to be key.
Yep.
If he comes back and he's healthy too, because obviously he was banged up.
Yeah, that's the
With
biggest
the foot.
question, right?
So if he
Mhm.
comes back, I think this team will be fighting to come back and be one of the top 4 teams in the Eastern Conference. But I think you got to put them, right now 2 or 3. Even if they don't have Dragic, I still think this team, they have elite coaching, elite coaching,
Yeah,
you know,
Spoelstra
uh,
is a
and
basketball genius.
yeah, and they might be able to add, some vets that will come in for cheaper because just because of the culture and just wanting to have that chance to win. So
Yeah, I can see
I
that.
definitely like this. I definitely like Miami going to and they definitely put themselves in position for to grab a big time free agent next offseason.
So
So
if you like,
sky's the limit for them.
what do you guys think in a perfect sequence? What's the type of player or position or whatever that Miami, if you could just pick one that they need to get to get them over the top? What position
They
or
need a shot creator. They need
okay?
someone who could create the like. If they would have got Danilo Gallinari this
Oh,
year, which
nice.
that was supposedly in the works to get him from OKC, but
Mhm.
it didn't pan out. I think they need to get another shot creator because Jimmy Butler, as great as he was, that's not
That's
his
not his
his
thing.
game, right? You can't have him being your lead shot creator, right?
I was
That's not
actually shocked at how good he was at it in
which
the
he
playoffs.
he did better than I thought, right? But you
He,
don't like you saw the games where he was the main shot creator. I mean, he's out of gas, right? He's literally
yeah,
giving you like it. So they definitely got to find another guy who can help him create shot because right now they, obviously Tyler Hero, he emerged a little bit, but I don't know if he can. A lot of people were crowning him, saying he's going to be a future All Star. I still don't see that. I think he fits his role perfectly,
he
right?
could.
Coming
Yeah,
off
he could
Yeah.
be a
off
really,
the
really.
spark plug
Yeah,
off the
but he's,
bench,
yeah.
yeah. So that type of role, I don't see him being a perennial All Star like some people were saying. That was kind of ridiculous, but they got to find another shot creator. I don't know if that's via trade or something, but they got to find someone who can help Jimmy, take the load off. Because when Jimmy is the primary scorer,
That's
he's
tough.
using every bit of energy
And you could
yeah,
tell too, like
yeah,
in both the
yeah.
series. But
And it hurts his defense too, because we saw,
we've
his
seen it
defense
happen.
wasn't the same when he's the
Yep,
primary scorer. So
we've seen it for
they definitely
years.
need to help him, get him another guy to help, to help take the load off him scoring wise.
Yeah, just as a Bulls fan, I can't believe that Jimmy is the same kid that I saw grow up as a Chicago Bulls. Like he I don't know if anybody's got that much better every year for so many consecutive years. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you would have told me his rookie or second year when he was giving LeBron fits, but he was just that's what he was doing, that he would be scoring 40 in NBA finals, like I wouldn't have believed it. So, but
No, of course
I
not.
totally agree. It's the effort it takes. That's why a guy like Durant is so key because it's effortless. I mean, he can
Mhm.
accidentally get 30 and, it's about putting the ball in the bucket. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, and I would say that probably another kind of combo forward wing defender. Jay Crowder was pretty good in his role as a spot up 3-point shooter, and his defense really wasn't as solid as what we've seen in years prior. So I think getting someone who could kind of do a little bit of the same thing, maybe even in the draft. Miami drafts excellently. We
Yeah.
see that they kind of pick up young guys off the cheap
Mm-hmm.
in free agency, and it's not like in Miami you can think about transactions the same way you do any other team. Like they have a very specific type of player that they look for. So when you have your filter that thin, you're only going to be able to go out and target so many other players. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
it's going to be the case. I see Miami kind of taking a step back this season. And again, it's not to discredit anything that they did this year. I just think losing Dragic, they maybe try to deal none,
Is
and
is
because he's on a minimum contract, and they're probably not going to be bringing him back.
you don't think they'll bring Mario Chalmers back?
Mario Chalmers now. They're going to be losing probably, Jay Crowder, Myers Leonard. Everybody was in love with him on the bench this year, right? He's probably gone. Kelly Olynyk's probably not going to be around longer. A guy that I would really love to see them trying to make a play for if they could get him on the cheap is like Serge Ibaka. I think would be a great addition in Miami. I think he kind of fits that Heat culture in a sense, and he would be a great backup center to Bam Adebayo. But with the East kind of reloading up and players taking the next step, so to speak, on some of these teams, I see Miami being fourth and probably, in the conference finals in the Eastern Conference for next season. But moving on here. Yeah, I have Toronto here fifth, and Jeff has them fourth. Jeff, when you were kind of looking at Toronto for your rankings, what
this one was crazy. I went kind of the opposite of what we've been talking about. I don't think like in the playoffs I'm that worried about Toronto next year, but I just think that they're a team that is going, when they start the season, is going to be like kind of hit the ground running. Like they're really well coached. They've got some veterans. We know they're going to lose Van Vliet, but yeah, I just think that they're a team that'll compile a lot of wins, early, kind of the opposite of what we said about the Nets and stuff. And that was the main reason. I don't necessarily think that they're going to be a super strong team in the playoffs. We're assuming if the Nets are healthy and Miami gets a piece or whatever, but I think they'll compile a lot of wins just by their, professionals essentially, and they're well coached. They're ready to go day one. And they always pick up somebody,
Yeah,
I don't think they're losing. Are they losing anybody but Van Vliet? I don't know. I don't know this answer.
Well, not
Spain. He's going to Spain, and Ibaka's a free agent. So it all depends. I mean, they may have to pick one of those guys. They obviously can't afford all of them, so they're gonna have to pick.
Well, I didn't realize that. So there you go. So
and they got Chris Boucher still, who was kind of a fringe big man too. They got to figure out what they want to do with Anunoby. They still have some guys too, like Terrence Davis coming off the bench. They still have, Norman Powell, who was pretty big for them at times through the season. So they got some guys, and like you mentioned, Jeff, they'll probably add a couple of guys up, right?
They develop players unlike any other team. So I mean, they're a team.
Them in Miami,
they find guys. They find guys in the second round, undrafted guys. And look at Fran Van Vliet was an undrafted
exactly.
Dude,
that's kind of what I'm thinking. Everything
he's about to get a nice contract now, and he was big in their championship run. So and he was big. He was great this year too. So. They'll find guys. I mean, they've developed a tremendous, their development over there is A plus. So
agreed.
They'll be fine. They'll be even if they lose all three of those guys, they'll be fine. They'll figure a way. They'll be fine for sure.
You guys make me feel a lot better about my ridiculously early.
It's all good.
Of the Toronto. I'm not going to sit here and act like I watch a lot of Toronto's Raptors basketball before the playoffs.
I could tell by your expression that when I was coming to you with the Toronto question, you started kind of giggling over there. But,
I did base everything on this, but I just don't know free agents and stuff, which it made it fun. This is, this is a lot easier than doing my football ones, right? Over everything.
Yeah, you get to kind of cut loose a little bit, right? Because it's not really your forte, but you still kind of like it, right?
If I'm right, I could tell everybody how right I was. So it's a win-win for Jeff.
That's how I am with football, because if I lose, I'm gonna say, well, I'm a basketball guy. But if I win, I get to say, I can't believe y'all let a basketball guy.
You did you did call the Kentucky upset. So maybe we should listen more to.
I also had Georgia and UNC winning last night too. I mean, every dog has his day, right?
To come on the show, I should have. I had Florida State. I knew Florida State was gonna not just like the way they played, but I thought they would sneak definitely a win.
Yeah, we knew that was coming. We just didn't think
in North Carolina, they're not ready. They're not ready for the starter couch, but they're not ready for this top. They're not truly a top 5 team. That's why.
Yeah, I'm not going to get sidetracked because
we'll get off track, but it's definitely not a top 5 ranked team. I mean, so I thought that something funky was going to happen in Tallahassee.
Well, there you go, Chris. How you feeling about Toronto? I have them 5th. Jeff has them 4th. Do you like them around there?
Yeah, I like them around the 4 or 5. I think, like I said, they're probably gonna lose. I think I don't even think they'll bring back those guys. Ibaka and Van Vliet, and I think Gasol's probably gonna go to Spain because he wants to be closer to home. So you know, they still have Siakam. They still got OG. Obviously they got Nick Nurse. And like I said, the what they've done there. They got Kyle Lowry still, and I think they'll be fine. They're like I said, the development program over there is A1, and they'll find guys in the second round, late first, undrafted guys, and they'll plug them in, and then they'll fit right into the culture. So I'm not too worried about them. They'll be fine. They'll revamp. They'll find their next Fred VanVleet somehow. So I think they'll be fine. They're in good shape.
Yeah.
I think OG is primed for a big jump this year. I think OG is primed for upgraded role
sure, yeah.
responsibility, especially how he played in the playoffs. He gave Boston fits. He was just hitting almost everything that he put up. All right, so next I have Philadelphia 76ers at the 6th spot. Jeff, you have them at the 5th spot. So we're kind of, like-minded here in a little ways. Doc Rivers is the new head coach. They added Dave Yeager as their assistant. A lot of their faces are probably going to stand put unless they trade them, meaning Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Al Horford, Josh Richardson, and Tobias Harris are their big guys. They also have Matisse Thybulle, who love him as a rookie. It's just going to be interesting to see how they come into this season. I'm kind of speculating that one of the big two on that team are going to be moved. If I was going to move somebody, I would move Ben Simmons. I think that he's probably a little bit more versatile of a player. Chris, how are you feeling about Philadelphia coming into this year?
I have no clue how to feel about them. They added Doc, which is obviously he's an established coach, but this roster is still all over the place. I don't like this roster right now.
The roster
doesn't make any sense. This roster, I mean,
created by a former big man in Elton Brand, right? Like, if you consider who the general manager is, this is a big man's roster.
Just I don't get this team. I mean, I don't get this team. It's just a weird team. They just don't have. It just didn't seem like they were connected, right? When they played against in the first round, like they just seemed like everyone's blaming each other. They had no cohesiveness. It was just all over the place.
Simmons got hurt,
obviously Simmons' injury didn't help, but still, like they just didn't have the chemistry that they need to be a good team. And I don't know what happens. I don't think they blow it up this year. I don't think they'll trade Embiid or Simmons. I think they'll give it another go because they have Doc this year. So they're going to see how Doc can.
Yeah, that's what I was basing everything.
I think they'll try to see what Doc can do to get this team, back.
Word on the street is that he's pretty high on ball in this draft, and he's willing to give up Simmons to get him.
No, I don't believe that at all. Yeah. I don't believe
it would be a very un-Doc move.
Real quick,
makes zero sense.
Who would you rather have going into next season?
Ball or Simmons? Simmons. I think that Simmons gets.
Simmons, yeah. Simmons.
Oh, really?
He gets a lot of hate because he doesn't shoot a three.
Exactly.
But he
I'm one of those guys. You know me. I don't hate on him, but I'm a guy that like watches these game, and I'm like, this. I don't see it, but I trust your guys' judgment. But that's cool. That's nice to hear. I got to look into these things.
He does everything else like at a great level. Literally everything else.
Yeah, he does everything good. He's got the shooting, which it's still puzzling that he doesn't even attempt.
Yeah,
jump shots. Everything is pretty much from the free throw line in, which he does have to expand that game because to me, all it would do is just make his game that much better.
Correct.
So because if he were to add a respectable jump shot, I mean, he could be an MVP type player. I mean,
a guy that, and this is ludicrous, but that's what I do, is a guy that he reminds me of with the skill set. But but back then it didn't matter. Magic Johnson was the same way. Like how many highlights do you see of Magic just draining three? Like that wasn't his game, but he can try. But I'm just saying, like a guy can, in today's basketball, it seems odd for a guy to, to have a skill set that doesn't include making, 50% of your threes. But but I remember seeing it. I mean, Magic was the same way. Like it wasn't when you were in the driveway, you never shot the ball and said you were Magic. I mean, so it was just a weird, like as much as we loved him. So it's nice to know that players still exist. So I'm gonna start looking more into this kid. I like what you guys got going there.
Yeah, he's just, you know, if this were 10 years ago, like, yeah, this would be,
Wouldn't be a
you'd be
big
fine with it. Like, but in an
thanks to
era where
Steph
you need to
Curry.
shoot, where you have to have shooters, and they don't have a lot of great shooting there. Just Josh Richardson, he was a big
He fell
disappointment
off.
coming
Yeah, fell
from
off in his
Miami. And,
shooting.
Alex Burks was solid. He's always been
Yeah.
a solid player and stuff. Maurice Tybalt is an up and coming player. But he's got to get something a little bit. I'm not saying he needs to. He's not going to be he's not going to shoot 40% from three and all of a sudden, because that's just not his game. But he just has to a little bit of respect, just respect, because all people are going to do is just play, drop defense because all they, he can only just get to the
Yeah,
hole. So
that makes it that clutters.
all it does is it's expand your game, and it makes it for easier to get to the hole, right? That's the whole point. Is you want to make it as easy as possible. So if you have people respect your, like, oh, he might be able to make this,
Mhm.
you know,
Look at what
it just,
Giannis did. Giannis wasn't
yeah,
a great shooter, and
yeah,
he was
right. So now you have to respect Giannis a little because
That's a good. Yeah,
obviously he's not a lockdown shooter, but
he's like
he
a
gets
low to mid
respected.
30s, low to mid
He's
30s
respectable now. He went from being okay, like we're not gonna even. Who cares if he even tries? Now he's like, okay, all right, we have to respect it a little bit.
in the
So
regular season. In the
in the
playoffs,
regular,
they just kind of dare him. But yeah,
yeah,
like
because regular season, obviously playoffs, you lock down. Defense is gonna be a little different because you're seeing a team 7 games. But in regular season, you could dominate that all the time. So definitely needs to expand a little bit. Maybe Doc can help, bring that out for him.
that's I think going to be the big piece for Philadelphia, and as far as where they stand at the end of the year, is how motivational can Doc be? Is he going to be the type of coach that comes in and lights a fire underneath, Embiid and Simmons?
yeah, it's all based on that for sure.
I
And
don't
I
know.
think you will. I think
I
they'll be
don't know.
better.
It'll be interesting to see. Still not. I didn't like the hire. I'm not crazy about the hire.
I didn't like the
We'll
fit
see.
for him. I would
I
have
don't
loved
think
to
it's a
see
good
him.
fit.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't. Yeah, I don't think you're. Yeah,
I think he would have been the better choice for Brooklyn had they not, already hired Steve Nash at the time. I think Rivers with, Durant and Irving would have been great. Personally.
I think that would have been a better fit, but
I think it would have been a better fit, but I think Irving and Doc Rivers are oil and water.
oh yeah,
Maybe.
could be.
And Irving's like that with
Yeah,
I like him, and at the same time, like I don't think he would be that easy to coach. So I could see how that could be, especially with Doc. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it would be interesting
it
to
would
see
have
that.
been interesting for sure.
Yeah. But all right, so 7th here I have the Indiana Pacers, and 7 you have them 6th. So
Yep.
again, Jeff, me and you, we're kind of like-minded here. Chris, what do you think Indiana is going to do this next season? They still don't have a coach yet, but they have a lot of their pieces are returning for this year. How do you feel about Indiana?
They're in a weird spot because they're in the mid. They're kind of in the middle where
Mhm.
they either have to decide whether they're going to go for it and try to be one of those top 4 teams, or they got to just shake things up and maybe rebuild this thing because is Oladipo. Obviously, I don't think they believe Oladipo is going to be the Oladipo of a couple years ago. He hasn't been the same, and they have
Mhm.
to figure out if he's that dude. And obviously they have Malcolm Brogdon and TJ Warren did emerge,
Tony
but
Buckets.
is that something we're going to see from now on, or is that just a flash in the pan? Was that just his 15 minutes? So it's going to be interesting to see how Indiana is, right? Nate McMillan's not there no more, so
It's a shame. That dude needs a
I don't
job.
even know who's going to be the coach. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a downside.
yeah, they don't have a coach right now,
back,
so we really don't know how. We really don't even know how they even. Yeah, that would be a better evaluation if they had a coach who you can actually see okay how they're gonna run, but they're a weird team because right now they're in the middle and you don't want to be in the middle. I've always said that. You don't want to be where like Indiana or Detroit or those teams that just they're stuck in the middle and they don't know what way to go. So So it's crazy to think I'd much rather like either be one of the bottom teams where like, all
Oh,
right,
I
at
think a
least we're
lot of these bottom
rebuilding,
teams are
or
better off than
the
Indiana.
top teams, obviously, but they're in a weird spot. I don't know which way they're gonna go. It all depends what they do with Oladipo. Obviously, he's been in a lot of trade rumors,
Mm-hmm.
and
The
so
word is he wants a max contract after next
yeah,
year. So
I
maybe
mean,
I
on the
think
they gave Miles
Oladipo.
Turner a lot of money, and that hasn't really shown out because Miles Turner's, I thought he would be, take off and be one of the, an
I'm
emerging player,
still
but
high
he
on
is what he is. He's still a solid big, but he is what he is at this point of his career, and
it's a weird fit with him.
Sabonis getting hurt
Mhm.
them, that hurt them, going into this, but they're still in a weird spot, what they're gonna do with Oladipo. That's the biggest what if right now. So they have to
And that's
figure
kind
out
of
what
what
they
I
are.
think is. I think Oladipo is going to leave, and I agree with Chris. I think they're going to the 7th seed. But you got to think when I'm thinking of a 7th seed in the East, it's a 500 basketball team fight.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Fighting for a spot. And I think Oladipo leaves, and I think several of those teams in the bottom, like 5 or 6 teams, are way better off than Indiana right now. But
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that, and coaching really could make the difference on whether. And again, this is way too early power rankings, right? So like it could make the difference of them being kind of
it
one
is
of the
way too early. They don't have a coach.
right. So it could be the difference in the being a middling Eastern Conference playoff team, or looking at retooling and rebuilding, right? So
Mhm.
um,
Fine line.
and what we're going to do moving forward, guys, just to give you guys, a train of thought, we're going to do the 8 seeds on each one, and then just kind of a general discussion of the rest of the guys that we, both have
Fair.
in the playoffs, right? That way we're not, doing 10 minutes on each team, right? So last year I have Atlanta as the 8 seed. Jeff, you have them at 10th.
Yeah.
Chris, how are you evaluating Atlanta coming into next season?
I mean, they're a very intriguing team for sure. I mean, they
Mhm.
have they have a lot of talent on that team. Obviously Trey Young, DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish, John Collins. I mean, they have, and Huerter, they have a bunch of guys. Capella too, who they got
Yeah,
from
getting Clint Capella was
Houston.
big.
Like they have the guys, they have talent. They just got to figure out how to get it all together because they are a very very young team. So if they could figure it out how to put everything together, obviously Trey Young is one of the best already, one of the best players in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I like Cam Reddish a lot. I think he could be. He's one of those guys
I wonder
that
why. I wonder why you
yeah,
like.
no, yeah. I wonder why too. Yeah, but he's one of those guys. Cameron's one of those guys where he got lost in college, but
Mm-hmm.
he's excelling in the pros. Right? It's kind of something I've been really big on. Is like there's a lot of guys that we see them in high school like they're great, and then they go to college and they kind of get lost. And I kind of felt like that was Cam. Like he was kind of in a bad situation. Obviously, RJ Barrett, Zion, you're gonna get lost in that shuffle.
Yeah.
But you always saw the talent, and he's kind of showed in the pros that he's can be he's going to be a good one. So I think he's going to emerge. He's going to have a big sophomore season for sure. So this Atlanta team has a lot of good pieces, and if they add a good draft, I think they have what the 6th pick or something. They got a
Yeah,
pretty
they
high
they
pick.
got it. Yeah, that
They got
definitely
a
a
high
top
pick,
pick.
yeah. They have all the pieces to be a very good team. So
Yeah, I agree.
upcoming future, yeah. So they
I,
have everything to climb up and be to possibly get to be a playoff team. So they're gonna be fun. They're a league pass team for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I like the roster. I like the team, and I would rather be Atlanta than like we say, the
Exactly.
Indiana. I
I'd
would
rather
much
be
rather.
Atlanta than
And
Orlando.
I went the other way only because I think they'll be really good and yet still lose some games. But I think that at the end of the year, you'll go. 2022, we're having a different discussion. I think, but
Oh
so
yeah.
I lean the other way. I agree with everything about the what Chris said. Because I learned most everything I know
You have
about
Orlando 8th here. What's Jeff? What made you want to put Orlando 8th? Because we kind of flip flopped. I have my 8th seed in your 10th spot, and vice versa for you with me, right? So I have Orlando 10th. You have them 8th. Not too far off.
Yeah. I mean, I did. I really based it on a few. Like, I assume that the difference between Orlando and Atlanta will be a couple games.
Mhm.
I don't know really. I mean, I just kind of looked and
Yeah.
it was kind of a gut
Jonathan
feeling.
Isaac being out's going to hurt
Oh
Orlando.
man,
Based,
I wish he would stay healthy because I'm really high on Jonathan Isaac.
Well, you know what? And I should have like looking back, I should have factored that in more.
Sorry, man.
No, I was kind of basing it on a healthy team, and now that you mentioned, I actually, once we start talking about it, I should probably flip those two, but I committed to it.
They're just such a they're just so underwhelming because they have so much talent. If you look at Orlando's roster,
Fultz,
and like they're like a 2K team where like you would use them and they would be a great
Mo
team in
Bamba.
2K. Yeah, like they have the talent, and then you see
Aaron Gordon.
them play, and you're like, like they're just.
They need a bucket getter. They just need someone who can go out, put the ball on the floor, and get you a bucket. Because they have
not even just that. It's they're not developing these guys. That's the problem. They're not developing these guys because they have talent, right? I look at this roster, and you got the number 1 pick in Fultz, and you got Gordon, Vucevic. Vucevic is the most established guy on that team.
Oh, correct.
Isaac,
probably
DJ Augustine was their best player this year in the bubble. Like,
and in the playoffs last season,
he's his 30s. Like he's been on a bunch of teams. He should not be your best player, but he's been their best player. Mo Bamba's been a disappointment. Like he's still young, and I'm not gonna
he's a young big. He's
still young, but he hasn't showed he hasn't shown that he's gonna take that next level, right? Terrence Ross is a he's a firecracker. He's either gonna be good or he's gonna be bad, right?
A human torch, right?
Yeah. So like they have all the talent. You look at this team, and it's just like they're just not developing these guys right. So that's.
Do you think it's Steve Clifford? Do you think it's the coach?
It could be that it could be Steve Clifford, but it could just be that they don't have the right people, the right developers over there. Like, you see, like look at Toronto. Like Toronto has done this with a way less talent that they've been able to draft, and they've gotten more out of their talent. Miami, look at this, teams like that. We look at with less talent, and they've been able to develop those guys, right?
Yeah, because Indiana's probably been in a pretty similar situation as far as draft and players and stuff like that. But you kind of seen them always kind of a step ahead of Orlando, and it's just really odd that two similar organizations. And that's why I think that's the Nate McMillan effect. I'm really high on McMillan. I hope that he gets a job somewhere soon. But Jeff, one of the
I think basically what it boils down to is I think you guys are just right and I'm wrong about Orlando. Like, I fully admit that. Now that I think about it, like. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm always wrong about Orlando. I always feel like they're going to take a step back and they just somehow always wind up getting the 7th or 8th seed. Like they just always do that. Jeff, one of your biggest discrepancies as far as, the top 8 versus mine is you have Chicago as being and I see, the shirt that you're wearing. I'm sure that has nothing to do with where you put
it. It has everything to do with it. But no, I think they're a scrappy, and I know they're not perfect by any means. I'm predicting that. So this is all based on this. Whoever they pick at 4, it works out, and they pick a starter, and that Billy Donovan, makes the difference. I just watching what he did with Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma's probably a little better talent, but watching what he did, he was, was competitive. He didn't fail. And then I just think I can just see them once again. I think a 7 seed, you're talking like, I know, I don't think it's a full season, but like in a full season, I'm thinking like, you're still only at like 40.
Yeah. 38 to 40 wins. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like I think they're going to be world beaters, but I really do think that they're going to be a 7 or 8 seed next year.
Okay. That's fair enough. I mean, the guys that are high on guys like Kobe White, I know is a name that a lot of people like. Zach LaVine is another bucket getter. They got some talent. Chris, what do you feel about Jeff having them in the playoffs, or being a top 8 seed? Do you think that they're there this year?
I think they could definitely be there. I mean, Kobe White was emerging in the second half of he was balling. I mean, he had a stretch where he was just killing it, for Chicago. And I'm a big Wendell Carter fan. I wonder why.
I have no idea.
Big Wendell Carter fan, and obviously, Zach LaVine, another guy who improved so much this year, took his game to another level. They have they have the piece, and then if they
have Daniel Gafford from Arkansas, I mean, what else do you need?
If they could figure out marketing, because it feels like he's been a little lost lately. I mean, he's
the odd man out.
If they got to figure it out or try to deal him to get someone that can and get some pieces for him, but he's still super talented too. So
he's just a sore thumb on this team because they have a bunch of athletes and quick people, and Lowry is just not that guy. He's just kind of a lumbering big man who's supposed to be able to shoot threes, right? And even that he's not like excelling at. You know what I mean? So
And I'm putting a lot of stock in that Levine is going to take another step and when he first went there, I wasn't the highest on him, but I'm putting a lot of stock that people smarter than me are right and that he is as good as they think he's going to be. And if he takes one more, baby step, then I think that he can, be the legitimate.
Yeah, now he's got to be a winner because he's always
there you go.
He's got to. He did it with Minnesota,
and that's why I'm giving Donovan the nod.
Donovan
has
always been good. Has been good at developing guys too.
Yeah.
He's been doing it since he was at Florida.
I would kill for an 8th seed right now. I miss the playoffs. I would kill for
that's obtainable. I think
very
obtainable.
It is.
And then anything can happen.
I have them as the 9th seed, right? And that's probably
fair.
Maybe being a little bit more generous towards, the usual suspects with Indiana, right? Atlanta, I have them taking a big step. I just feel like they have a more complete roster that kind of makes sense with all their players make sense with each other as opposed to Chicago. But, I'm not super low on Chicago. Chris, we have Milwaukee, Atlanta, Washington, New York, Charlotte, Cleveland, and Detroit rounding out, the bottom of Jeff's standings. Where do you disagree with the most here?
Obviously, Milwaukee being at 9.
Okay. Totally based on them. Something
I think even with a lot of stuff going on with them, I think they'll still obviously be a playoff team. But I think those are the bottom teams right now. I mean, unless Cleveland's not going anywhere. Detroit's another team that's
Cleveland and Detroit are just on a treadmill.
Detroit
backwards.
They're in trouble. Charlotte, they need a lot of help. The Knicks, obviously, they're still far away.
They're young.
Washington, obviously Beal's a stud. They could possibly be an 8 seed.
I was torn.
Tomorrow is a emerging big. If
they're probably losing Bertans, or they may keep
probably gone, which is he's gonna be on the market, and a lot of teams are gonna want Bertans because he could shoot. He could shoot it from anywhere.
Play all season.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I based it on that he's not going to be there.
John Wall, he's probably going to come back, but it's just a matter of what John Wall you're going to get because if he hasn't played, he's at that point he wouldn't have played in almost 2.5 years. So to expect him to do anything, he's had some bad injuries.
I probably should have put them lower. Like I think they're worse off than like the Knicks. You know what I mean? That was strictly by win.
I have them 12th.
I think because they have Beal. That's why I would still put them ahead of the Knicks and all that because Beal does a lot and like you said, Rui Hachimura is a good player
and I don't think Wall is going to be terrible. He's probably not going to be the same John Wall that we're used to seeing, right? But he's still going to be. He's one of the things that always people I feel like underrate with John Wall. Everyone focuses on his speed, but his decision making was always great, right? And he's solid defender. He was always up there in assists and steals, and I don't think that that's going to go anywhere, when he comes back.
I think if we did a show on all-time, like, wrong place at the wrong time players, Wall's on the list with, like, Barkley and those guys to where, like, that guy could have been
Derrick Rose.
Yeah, I mean, I just, and a Rose was some of that was luck, but I think Wall was just – I think he's turned out way better than I thought he was going to be, and now he's been in the league for we're pushing 10 years now. I mean, it feels like forever.
In 2010,
and who knows if he goes like look at all the guys that went to Golden State at the right place at the right time, and Golden State, and then it turned into a dynasty. You know what I mean? Like Wall could have. I don't know. I think he's going to be on the list of like, man, I really thought that guy played good enough to have a couple championships, and he still might, but.
It's going to be weird just because we haven't seen him in so long. I think people really forget about how great he was. But
he's going to be one of those, like, he doesn't have any championships, but he also wasn't a bust.
Yeah,
he's just
going to be kind of just one of your guys that you're going to be like, oh, he's going to be a name that you'd be like, hey, do you remember this guy type player?
Yeah.
That's where I think that he's going to be. But
they don't have much of a good roster though, other than
it's not happening with this team.
Yeah,
but that's fine if it's good for John, it's good for me, man. That's
and then I got 9th through 15th on mine. I have Chicago, Orlando, Detroit, Washington, Charlotte, New York, and then Cleveland. Not a big. I don't know what direction Cleveland goes in. they've been drafting guards a lot lately and trading for centers. Like they just don't have any wings.
Cleveland does not care.
Cleveland's a mess.
They really they don't.
They don't have a direction, and that's what really
LeBron did LeBron did all the work for that team when he was there both times. On the court and off the court. Like he built, they let him do whatever he wanted, and it worked out. He was the best GM in the league for a few years.
Yeah.
Cleveland.
He was the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Absolutely.
I don't think enough people realize how bad Cleveland is. Like, other than obviously, yeah, they have LeBron James, but they've been a terrible franchise. Like, they don't know how to draft.
They've been a bad franchise.
They don't know how to get for agents.
They didn't have anything going until the 90s, right?
They had a couple good years in the 90s. Craig Elo, Mark Price, and it's just
the 80s Cavs.
Brad Daugherty. They had some guys.
80s Cavs were legit, but that's been since when their owner. When did he pass away? Probably 90s. It's been forever. When that guy, when things change in ownership and all that, it's just one of those teams that they could care less. It's weird, and they got lucky. Like if LeBron doesn't go back, even though they had Irving. Like Irving's not what he is now because LeBron wouldn't have came. Like
they had bad drafts too. Like
people
drafted Anthony Bennett with the number one pick.
I'm not
number one pick. Like even I was like, what? Like it just doesn't make sense. Like and on like I'm not even gonna blame him for not drafting Giannis because nobody knew Giannis in that draft was gonna be what he was.
Sure.
But to draft Anthony Bennett, like. He's one of to me he's the biggest bust ever that in my life and since I've been able to watch back. I'm sure there's been worse number one picks, but even worse than at least Kwame Brown had moments where he was good. Like Anthony Bennett never had a moment where you were like, okay,
he just
can't put it together, right? That's Anthony Bennett never was good. There was never a point where you were like, okay, he's good. All right, he just needs to no. He was just bad from the jump. Like he was just never a good NBA player. Like bad.
All right. Well, moving on. I feel like that wraps up the Eastern Conference. Right now, we get to have a little bit more of a fun discussion. The Western Conference. This is the one that I kind of. If you see my notebook, I scratched and rewrote and scratched and rewrote. Like
I thought I was crazy with Golden State, but I feel a little better now.
No, I changed my mind on this so much, and then I've just finally had to realize, Steven, this is a way too early segment. There hasn't been anything done yet. I can take it more seriously later, right? But, Chris, we have it looks like Jeff and I both have the Los Angeles Lakers. Jeff, I don't know if you felt the way I did. It was just like it's theirs until someone takes it from them.
Well, I think they're going to add a piece. LeBron, championship teams can always add a piece because who wouldn't want to go there and win one? There may be something to the CP3 thing. I don't know.
I don't know how financially they're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, it's a mess. We talked about it. What I tell you, I was like, they're going to play 3-on-5 if they get him. Like, I don't know how they're going to do it, but they'll add a piece. Championship team. I didn't want to put them there, but then I couldn't find somebody. It's more like I couldn't find somebody that would be better.
Correct.
I didn't. There's some holes on that roster. They just have two really makeup players for it. So
correct.
I went ahead and put them one, even though I didn't want to. I like the number. I like my number 2 team a lot next year.
I like my number 2 team a lot too. Even though that we have different number 2 teams, but Chris, how do you feel? Is this more are you more along the line of Jeff, where you couldn't find anybody who can just pass them, you didn't want to put them there, or are you like me and was just like it's theirs until someone takes it from them?
With the Lakers,
yeah,
it's to me the Lakers are the best team in the West. They still have the 2 best players in the league, so they could fill out a bunch of vet minimum guys and still be probably get to the finals, or at least the Western Conference Finals. So yeah, I think the Lakers are still kings until someone can prove they can beat them, which nobody. I don't see, as deep as the West is, and it's super deep. The worst team is Oklahoma City right now, and they still have CP3 currently right now.
Yeah, on mine,
but I still don't think there's a team that can beat them.
Yeah,
right
I based
now.
mine on CP3 not being in Oklahoma City next year.
Oh, if he's not there, yeah, then
As did I.
them and Sacramento are gonna battle for that, but
I think Sacramento will find a way to, lose having the worst
Sacramento's
record.
has
Go
bad
for it.
leadership.
Yeah.
Their front office has always been a
They
mess.
did just
Their
revamp
coaching
it.
is
Joe
awful.
Dumar is going to be taking over for them.
Yeah,
Well,
Joe
I
Dumars
hope
should have been
he's
had a
trying to
job.
make
Like,
them better.
yeah, Joe Dumars should have had a job a long
They
time
better-
ago.
yeah,
Correct.
I
Yes.
really like Joe Dumars. Really like
Yeah.
Joe Dumars. Start to finish kind of guy.
Yeah,
I
and
think he gets a
too,
bad rap because he traded Chauncey for AI, and AI was clearly not the same dude. And then obviously the Darko draft was,
That's
all-time
the one that
bad. I
sticks.
think those
That's the
hurt
one that
him.
really sticks.
I think that's what hurts him. But he's still. I mean, I've seen worse GMs get way more opportunities than him. So he definitely deserves to get another shot to see what he can do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll root for Joe.
And I think too with LA, we're gonna look at this offseason and be like, yeah, like look at all these guys that they had, but they just won a championship. And we've talked about this on other shows, guys, where we were like, nobody wanted Dwight Howard. Nobody wanted Rajon Rondo. They added Alex Caruso from the G League. Avery Bradley was a guy that they got for like at the mid level. And a lot of these moves didn't move the needle. And then we saw a team like the Clippers get like all the, more sexy names from free agency all the way through the trade deadline and the buyout market. And LA just won a championship with not having the best free agency period, obviously minus getting Anthony Davis, right?
Yeah,
but
it's kind of a big deal.
Outside of that one move, nothing else really broke right for them in free agency, and they just won a ring.
But I'll tell you, the one red flag that they have is like, and I know he's immortal, but you're one of your oldest players still has to carry the team to a certain point. That has to like catch up to you at some point. And I don't know if it's next year, but at some point, like, your 35-year-old can't be the guy that like you count on when your superstar is having a bad game or gets 2 fouls in the beginning of the first quarter or something. That was the biggest chink in the armor I saw. I was like, man, how eventually this guy's going to get tired, but he didn't obviously.
They'll add a point guard. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be CP3. It could be Dennis Schroeder from Oklahoma City if they're looking to move him. It could be Derrick Rose from the Detroit Pistons if they're looking to move him.
I like that. I saw a whisper about that today, only because I like Rose so much that I would like to see him be on a really, really, really great team. I'd like to see him accidentally get a ring. He's one of those guys that he's going to get a ring in 5 years and he's never going to play a minute, and I'll be happy for him.
There you go. Yeah. I have Golden State here as my number 2 team, and then Jeff, you had them at number 4. So it looks like our 4 and our 2 are swapped here. Chris, where do you fall in line between Golden State and Dallas? Do you tend to like where I have them 2 and 4 respectively, or do you like them flipped?
I think they're in that range, that 2 to 4 range. I can see either or. Obviously, they have championship pedigree. So, but a lot of Clay's coming back from an ACL. Draymond, banged up. Steph was banged up. They're gonna have, adding Andrew Wiggins to the rotation, and they got to figure out some pieces. Eric Pascal was a surprise last year from Villanova. He played some good minutes as a rookie. So I mean they're gonna have to get back in sync because they took pretty much a year off, everyone, and they got to get back in sync. But can't count out the heart of a champion, and they had they're gonna have all the motivation in the world back to that level, and because a lot of people are just forgotten about them, because I mean it's crazy to think 1 year and you just you forget that this team went to 5 straight finals. So
everybody.
Yeah,
allow me to reintroduce myself.
So do you guys think Wiggins can be a star for them, or quote unquote?
It's a perfect role for him because he doesn't have to. There was too much pressure in him in Minnesota to be the guy, and he just he just wasn't. He's not built like that. So
I think he can thrive there.
yeah, I think he could. He's going to be the third option, scoring option, and I think, they're in good position. He's gonna be in a good spot, and I think he could excel in that position as the
He's
third
probably going to
guy.
be going up against bench units too on this team.
Yeah, or he could be the number one guy off. Not against against other teams' second units. I mean,
Mhm.
he can thrive in that. So I think
Kind of
it's
the like what Harrison Barnes did, right? One
Yeah.
of the years did.
I think he'd be a better version. I
Yes,
think he's
I
a
mean, I
better
think he's
scorer
a
than
better
Harrison.
version.
Harrison Barnes just started becoming a perimeter shooter, but I think
Mhm.
Wiggins can do a lot more than that.
I do.
So
I think he can be
yeah.
really, really good there.
And
Like,
he can
gonna
actually
be
can
potential.
benefit his defense too, because people forget he came in. He was the best defender coming out of Kansas. Like, he was supposed to be
Allegedly.
a two-way player, but he was relied on to be a scorer in Minnesota. So
Yep.
it kind of hurts defense. So now maybe he can help. He could do more on defense. Especially with Clay, you don't want Clay running around too much because he's coming off the ACL. So maybe
Clay and Draymond helping him
and
defensively.
Draymond, I think the defense is going to get better. I think the defense could get better, and then they're going to add the second pick in the draft,
Right.
so they can possibly add another, another player to that. So I think they're in good shape.
And they're a good team when they draft. They can afford to draft to fill a void rather than
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, they
they're
don't
not
need
trying to
need. Yeah,
build it.
they're taking the best player available.
Which
So if it's
that's
like
a
an
huge
Isaac
advantage.
Okoro, like if they were to get Isaac Okoro, I think that'd
Yeah,
be a
you
perfect fit for him.
add that
Perfect
to
fit.
a
Add a
good
big
team.
thing like that, like a big guy like that, who's
I'm like
athletic.
James Wiseman.
Wiseman, I mean, Wiseman could be good, but they like to be, they don't want to clog the paint too much. They like to be, they want, more spacing. So I think, I was, at first I was like, they should get a Kongwu or a Wiseman, but I think adding a Coral just gives them more spacing. Another big dude, who could slash and all that. I think coming off the bench, you could have, I think that
It could be
helps the
big.
second unit. So, because they like spacing on that team, that's why they usually don't go after big time bigs, like that. They get their solid bigs who could screen and all that
Yeah, kind of
to
by
open them up.
committee.
Yeah, so they can open up their shooters. So I think getting a guy like Okoro would be
Oh, that'd
a
be
home
nice.
run for both, because
Or
Okoro
getting like another shot creator too, like a
or it can improve the help them in shooting, because Lonzo's I mean, not Lonzo, LaMelo's issue is taking better shots, right? What better place to learn how to take better shots than
Yeah,
Curry,
right.
right?
The greatest.
And Okoro issue is he's not a great shooter. What better place to learn how to shoot than Golden State? So I think
they fail.
they're in a luxury where they can
Yep.
literally, any player they want, they have the look. They don't need it. They have no major need. They can take whoever they want. So
Yep, they
they're
did
one of
the
the rare
exact same.
teams that in their situation. It's kind of like Detroit in 04, right? In 03. I mean,
Yeah,
Detroit was coming off, that's, the same situation, right? They're picking off luxury, right? They made the wrong pick, but that's for different
Yeah,
situations. But it's kind of that situation where you have a team that won 50 plus games, they had a bad year, and they just happen to, like, it's like that Spurs, like, they just happened to have a bad year, and boom, they got luck and they got Tim Duncan, and then
Yep.
20 plus years. So maybe this could be like they draft the right guy, and then they continue the dynasty. So
That's how I
they're in a good spot.
trade for like a Devin Booker or Bradley Beal,
Or they can, like I said, they can make a deal or flip a Wiggins
Ooh.
in the number 2 pick and get someone
too.
big. So they're in a prime spot
They're
where
in
they
a
can
nice
do a
spot.
whole lot of things.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So you had them fourth. I had them second. Moving on to our third seeds. You have the Denver Nuggets, which I have them fifth. Jeff, what made you want to put Denver third here?
It's another one of those teams I think just hits the ground running. They don't need to change much. Everything that we saw out of Murray, I think was 100% legit. I don't think it was misleading at all. And I think that you're going to get that from day one of the season. And what do you guys call? Is it Joker? Is that what you guys call him?
Yeah, Jokic, the Joker.
Yeah, I think that's all. Everything that happened in the playoffs, I think, is legit. And I think they're going to pile up wins. From day one, they're going to be one of the better teams. At the end of the year, we'll see. If people catch up, if the Golden State Warriors get things together, and just like we just talked about and all that. But I don't know. They played great with everybody put in front of them, and they played some really good teams. And then some of the West is going to take some hits this year because of guys leaving and the whole Houston breakup and things like that. So yeah, I think they're plug and play day one is essentially why.
It's going to be interesting too to see how they make up for Paul Millsap leaving. Probably, I think he goes to another team. Maybe that Miami Heat culture is calling for a Paul Millsap, which would be pretty interesting, right?
Yeah, nice little spot.
But they got young guys, looking to improve with Michael Porter Jr. I think everyone's really high on him. It's hard to not like a 6'10", wing
Right.
shoot effortlessly, right?
This was probably my favorite team that I didn't know anything about to watch during the bubble.
Yeah, and I have them fifth simply because I think defensively they're just going to be such a liability. Losing Paul Millsap and
But I don't worry about that till the playoffs. So once again, that's where that factors in. That
totally
would be
understand. Jeff, Chris, I'll get to you real quick, but Jeff, my number 3 team I have is the Los Angeles Clippers. Right, you have them all the way down to fifth. So again, we're kind of swapping here.
The same difference. I believe what I saw. I think that was the right team. I notoriously for 10 years despised Paul George because of the up and down and the more talk than show game and all that. It's kind of a personal thing. I believe, and then, with the coaching switch and all that, I don't think usually where there's smoke, there's fire with stuff like this. And I think that, Kawhi is a guy that is quietly protest. Like he doesn't come out in the media and say he's kind of the opposite of LeBron. LeBron says a lot of crap, but then nothing ever comes out of it with his teammates. And I think Kawhi might be the opposite. I don't know if him and Paul are the same type of player, and you're never going to hear it. But I don't think that they mix well. I don't think they're in this together. You know what I mean? Like LeBron and AD are. And so I just think it just drops them down a couple of notches. I think they're a really good team. And I totally believed in them during the playoffs, but there's something there. So yeah, I essentially just hit them up just because I kind of dislike the way they go about their business.
Right. All right. So Chris, you and I were both really high on the Clippers. I think, we both had them actually winning it all this year, right? If I'm not mistaken, we had them going up against the Boston Celtics together. So like our finals were identical. We both believed in the Clippers last year. They just got rid of their head coach. They're bringing in Ty Lue, who, say what you will, is a former NBA champion. They're bringing in Chauncey Billups, who is looked at as a great basketball mind, although he has no coaching experience. A lot of people, such as myself, are really high on his, upside as a coach. What do you think about me having them third? Would you kind of have them there too, or are you more like Jeff and see them really at the end of the day being more of the fifth best in the West?
Yeah, I think that's probably their range is 3 to 5 right now. They're probably not bringing back Montrezl Harrell. He's probably going to be gone. So I mean that's a big loss because he was he was a staple off the bench and a real big energy guy that really was an integral part of that second unit. But it's I still can't believe they blew it. Like still can't believe it. Like they're better than Denver. Like they're better.
They were really good.
They were a better team, and they were the one team built to beat the Lakers, right? Like out of every team in the bubble, they were the one team that you were like, okay, like everyone said that's the NBA Finals is the Lakers versus the Clippers.
I
Those
agree
were the two
too.
best teams, right? And I think a lot of people thought that was going to be it, and they were up 3-1, up by like 15 points in that game 5, and they blew 10-point lead next game, and they were up by 10 in game 7, and they blew it again, and they just didn't have the chemistry. Chemistry, like I think that's what killed them. And like when you have two stars like that, when you have two guys who are not true alphas, like Kawhi is so quiet and Paul George is relatively quiet, even though you probably hear him a little more than in the media than you'll ever hear from Kawhi.
Demonstrative on the court,
but
right?
he's not really like. Do people really respect what he has?
Exactly. Well, he's a fake leader.
He's always been a great player, and that's not this thing. But do people take him serious as a leader, right? So when your two best players are guys like that, it's kind of a weird dynamic. That's why that's why it was weird when they picked Paul George to be the Robin to Kawhi's Batman. It's because I'm like, is that truly a good fit? I understand why you did it because you had to get Kawhi. So obviously, you got to do what you got to do, and that's I don't I'm not gonna give them, I'm not gonna get on them for that because that was the right move. But yeah, it's just a weird fit, when you have, especially when you have two guys who play essentially the same position. They're both, they both need the ball and all that. It was just a weird fit. But they still, even with that, they still were up 3-1. That's they had to finish it, but
Oh, no, yeah, they had it. Yeah.
they had it done. So it's just a
Yeah,
weird.
I think that they're lacking a shot creator, like one who can create shots for other people, right? Like a lot of these guys are isolationists, right? But they don't really have like a guy who can drive and find the open guy, like a dynamic playmaker, so to speak, which, maybe they move Paul George to get that. Maybe Brooklyn is a team that I'm hearing that, could be in the market for a Paul George, and maybe send a Spencer Dinwiddie and a Karis LeVert back to a Los Angeles Clippers team. Who knows, right? But I think, moving on, Dallas I have fourth. Jeff, you're a lot higher on them, as being your second seed here. I have them.
They're a hard team to beat night in and night out. I like everything I saw about him. Luka gets better. They'll add a piece. You guys would know who they are, but I'm sure there's a piece of puzzle they could add out there. But I mean, I'm totally up on them. I think as far as a regular season team, like they're going to be, I think Luka's going to have I put it on, he's going to have an MVP type of season, to where like a team like the Lakers doesn't have to do that. The Lakers, LeBron could be an 8 seed next year. He doesn't care as far as like getting into the playoffs, to where I think Dallas will be, more of a regular season, team and a playoff team. I think they got a good chance next year, but I know they need a piece. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I'm kind of high on them, and a lot of it's because I got the Clippers falling back too.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I like Dallas a lot. I don't see them as being second, being the second best team in the West, but I like them a lot. I think they'll get there maybe even next, the year after.
I originally thought they were another year away, but then I was just like, well, it's ridiculously early, so I went.
Then why not have some fun with it? Yeah,
that's right.
Luka is the truth, man, and KP, depending on the matchup, can give you fits. Chris, do you like Dallas here at 4, or do you like them a little higher?
I actually think lower.
Okay.
Lower.
All right.
Simply because it's not because of Luka. It's just Kristaps, health is an issue, right? It's been an issue since he was a part of, the Knicks, right? It's always been an issue.
Yeah.
And if he's not 100% and if he's not the same, it's going to be tough for them to for Luka to have Luka magic on a night in, night on basis, right? And especially in the West.
True that. Yeah.
So I don't think I think they'll be around the same where they were this year, a 7th seed,
Okay.
8th seed. It wouldn't even be surprised if they don't even make the playoffs, because it's
wow.
Just, like they got like their roster, like they don't play defense. they play zero defense, right? So and Luka has some injuries too, right? He's been banged up, and so it wouldn't surprise me if they don't even make the playoffs. But to me, it's not even. But it's not. I think they're a year away. Like I think they're priming themselves for next year's free agency. To me,
yeah.
So,
get that international big 3 going on. I'm really high on Giannis.
I think they're a year away from. They still got to add a few more pieces. Around Luka and get this team. Because right now constructed, they're still, Dennis. Not Dennis Smith Jr. Tim Hardaway Jr. Played a good role as being 3rd, 4th option, so he was solid.
Curry,
Seth Curry has excelled at his role, coming off the bench and being a spark plug off the bench. But
Maxi Kleber is really good on this team. I'm a big Kleber guy.
They still need some size to for sure. So but I think they're a year away. So
okay. All right. Well, we both talked about our 5th seeds already. Jeff, you have the Utah Jazz at 6. I have them at 8. Jeff, what made you so high on Utah?
Well, essentially, it was more of other teams coming back a little bit. You can see, when you look at my list, I've got the Rockets. I think they're going to blow it up, and I think people are going to be gone. I think they're dismantle it. I really do. So basically, dropping them out of it, somebody had to fill that void. And then, of course, I like Utah's. They've got some really good players. They're young. I guess I think that the West might not be quite as good top to bottom. this year as it has been in the past. So I try to think of who could fill those spots. And I'm down on the Pelicans. And I'll totally honest, just because of what I saw in the playoffs. That's not fair. But what
Mhm.
else do I got to go by? You know what I mean? I won't lie to anybody. I didn't go back and break down Pelican game tape.
Sure.
I'm going by what I saw and the disappointment that I saw. So I'm probably holding that against them. I think Oklahoma, blows it up. Then we know that the Kings so I basically somebody had to fill that void. And I should have, this is probably a spot where Portland should have been there for me. And I was hard on Portland. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I had a bad taste in my mouth after that Lakers series that they were exposed a little bit, and that I may not believe in the Dame, like
Him and CJ together.
there's something weird about him that I think he might be a little more selfish than people think, or you know what I mean, like.
Yeah.
I think the narrative is that, he's carrying his team and he'll do anything and he'll do all that. But then I watched the Lake, and he was hurt, and I like Dame. I don't mean to put it that way, but I think it's a little Paul George in where I don't know if he's like actually carries the team as much as I think he can get 60, and if they lose by one, is a little more okay with it than he should be. And that's harsh to say about somebody, but there's something. But I like the guy. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I like what he did, but it was the Lakers series that really like threw me off. So
All right.
yeah, that's it. No rationality whatsoever.
Okay. Chris, Utah, where you have them? I have them 8th. Do you have them in the top 8 at all? Do you have them taking a step back? Where do you have them?
Yeah, I would say they would be a top 8 seed for sure. I think
Okay.
Donovan Mitchell took his game to the next level.
Yeah, I'm a big Spider guy.
Gobert,
Yeah, love that guy.
yeah, Rudy Gobert was good. He's been good for a while, but he expanded his game a little bit. He definitely got better too. They have a good team. They have a good team, and I think they'll they're just another one of those teams where they're a piece away too. They're just a piece away from taking that next step. But they blew a 3-1 lead too. Like they blew a
Mm-hmm.
3-1 lead to
Yeah,
Denver, and they could have been in Denver's position. Wouldn't
we
be
would be
surprising.
talking. Yeah,
So they have to overcome that. But they
well, that was a
definitely
great series.
they got a good team. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're a top 8 team for sure.
All right. Well, and then I have Portland as my 6th team. I'm really high on Dame Lillard. I'm probably kind of on the opposite camp as what Jeff is. I think
Most
that
people are. Most
yeah,
people.
well, but you have a fair take. I mean, he's maybe the narrative isn't as illustrious as what it's being painted out is in real life. I think that he is like kind of a natural born leader and a guy that you want to be heading up your team. I mean, if a team like Philadelphia had a Dame Lillard instead of a Ben Simmons, with him and Embiid and the rest of those guys, I would think that Philadelphia's floor is automatically elevated just by Dame's presence alone.
What I worry about real quick about Dame Lillard, a comparison would be, and I've said this for years about a football player named Phillip Rivers. He
Mhm.
he gets to do all this in a comfortable spot where he's not being destroyed, by the media and all the pressure to win championships, like if you play in a New York or in a place like that. So sometimes he's like we're seeing Phillip Rivers now this year. You're like, this is the same guy that we've seen for, whatever 16 years on the West Coast that gets
Yeah.
to go fly under the radar a little bit. And Lillard's in that great spot of like, well, it's Portland. They don't have the players, blah, blah, blah. So that's what concerns me is that if he played for, Boston, would it be the exact same? I don't know the answer,
I
but
would love to see him in Boston, to be perfectly honest with
I
you.
would love him in Chicago. I don't want to act like that he's not great. Like
Right.
I'll take him tomorrow. I just don't know if the narrative is is quite what it is. But I see your point. I think you're
That's
probably
totally
right. I think you're probably right.
Well, Chris, how are you? Do you Portland as the 6th seed, or as you have them on Jeff's? The 9th. Do you see him? Do you see them being more along Jeff's camp? Where basically where they were this past year, right? Like they were the 9th seed. A lot of that may have been due to injury, but do you think
They
they
should
go?
be better than what they were this year. This year was a weird year. They had a lot of injuries. Nurkic not playing for most of the year. Trevor Ariza. They had a lot of injuries. They dealt with a lot of injuries and all that. So they should be better. They definitely should be better this year. Dame's obviously a star. CJ McCollum, is a tremendous player, and Nurkic healthy for a full season. I
Nurkic
mean,
is
that's
Well, that's true
huge.
too. Yeah,
He
that's
was
a
a monster. Trevor Ariza, if Trevor Ariza comes back,
man. I
he's
like
that good.
Trevor Ariza.
Rodney Hood,
Rodney Hood,
he blew out his Achilles. If he can come back
Trent
to any,
Jr.
they Trent Jr. emerging, he was big. If they can get anything from Anthony Simons, that would be huge up the bench. I mean, so
John
they have
Collins.
some players,
Yeah,
John Collins. I mean, you know, uh, that'll they definitely they have the pieces. Nassir Little, maybe if he can emerge
yeah.
as a scorer off the bench, they got some good solid young pieces along with some good vets. So I mean, they should be better. It just flat out they should be better.
I
But
think you've changed my mind.
yeah.
Okay. There you go. Well, I mean, that's what we're here for, right? Because this is
Well,
way
that's
too.
exactly what I'm here for. No, I like those are all great points when you start pointing out the roster that wasn't there. Especially guys like Ariza, who I love. It does. I mean, that stuff does factor in. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I have Houston being my 7th seed. Jeff, I love yours. I wish I was as confident in the team that you got to be your 7th seed. You have Phoenix. Chris, who are you more in line with? And then we'll go to Jeff. Who's the better 7th seed in your eyes, Houston or Phoenix?
Man, that's tough. I'll still go Houston because of James Harden.
Mhm.
He's still the best scorer in the league. So still got to go with him. Obviously, we don't know how the team's gonna look. Is Westbrook coming back? Do they add size? Do they finally get themselves a guy who's bigger than 6'7"
Yeah,
on the
Daryl
team?
Morey is gone now.
Daryl Mary's gone, so maybe they'll go back to a traditional style of basketball. Not try to do all this analytical stuff and go think out of the box, which is fine. You can think out of the box, but this was kind of a little too much. But you know, it's gonna be I'll still go with Houston. Phoenix still has to show me, like, just because they went 8-0 in the bubble doesn't I'm not gonna be like, oh, they're
like
gonna
I
take
did.
that next level. Yeah. Like, it was fun, yeah, it was cool, but
I got my feelings too, Jeff. Like that
yeah,
8-0 run
like,
to try to
if
get in
they
the.
had played better in the regular season, they wouldn't have been in that
They
position. Like,
wouldn't.
so, like,
They wouldn't be. Yeah.
they wouldn't have been in a position where they were even though they went undefeated in the bubble, they still didn't make the play-in game. So that's on
Yeah.
them for not doing what they're supposed to do in the regular season. But it's still going to be interesting. I like the team. I like Monty Williams as head coach. I think he's a good
Oh,
coach.
Monty.
They didn't have Kelly Oubre either in the bubble, so having
Love
him,
Tsunami Poppy.
adding a wing like him, so they have the piece, and then they got, obviously, the draft picks. So we'll see, but I'll still go with James Harden. He's still a premier player. And I still think they have, with Robert Covington and they still got some good pieces, and I'm sure they'll get a team that's more that'll be able to help James a little bit, and whether that's trading Westbrook or all that. The dog wants to come in, but
That's all.
but it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with Westbrook, because I don't know how they I don't think they see him long term as that piece to help him. So we'll see. But I'll still go with Harden, because he's still a premier scorer. They just got to get him help. He needs help, man. He can't do it. He can't score 50 points every freaking game and expect him to carry this team, because they haven't given him a lot of help, especially last year. That was a joke. I still don't understand why they did that. They thought it was cute, didn't work, obviously, because they
No.
saw the Lakers, and the Lakers just mantled them. So
Yeah, absolutely. And then, Jeff, I know that you see some moves breaking this team up down the line.
Yeah, I think I think that's what the deal was. I don't think that when they bring in the more quote unquote traditional type of coach, I don't think it's going to work. I think Westbrook's a problem. I don't think he's like totally down.
Mhm.
And I think he's just there's something weird about the guy, and I think it's going to disrupt the team. And then I don't know if Harden is going to want to automatically go back to a more conventional style of basketball. He may. I mean, but it's been so long that basically it's been run and gun for him.
Yeah.
That yeah, that's all. I think it's just it's just a matter of, like, this team at the end of the year, the roster may look totally different, just in my opinion, like some crazy stuff, because Houston can always get talent. Texas teams can always get guys to go there because
No
of
income tax.
Yep.
yeah, nuts. I mean, that's exactly right, and that's why I lean towards like the Texas teams like Dallas and Houston to pick up some guys here and there. So that's all. I just think that Houston's like, I think they're going to be more like a Golden State Warrior in 2 years. They're going to jump right back up. They have a down year, but who knows? If they stay together, they're obviously a playoff team.
Yeah. And I think too, with they don't have a head coach, and they're kind of promoting the assistant GM who assisted the guy that just stepped down. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. And the last, the playoff teams that we have to discuss between, your rankings and mine, Jeff, are the Memphis Grizzlies. You have them 8th. I have them 10th. It's really hard. It was really hard for me to omit this team because I'm a big believer in Morant. I love Brandon Clark. I love, Triple J, the power forward that they have, Jackson Jr., right? So there's a lot of guys to really, really like on this Memphis Grizzlies team. I just think that some of the more older teams, especially with Golden State coming back, I think that they're just kind of on the outside looking in.
And this is where like me dropping Houston out makes the difference. I mean, essentially that's what and I'm not quite as, I think you had New Orleans. Did you have New Orleans above Memphis?
I did, and I just think it's because of the depth that they're going to have.
Yeah, and I don't blame you. Once again, they just left a bad taste in my mouth, and just something felt weird about it. No basis whatsoever on it. I mean,
and they're going to have a new coach too, so they're not going to have Alvin Gentry, which I think is going to make a decent difference. Like I almost put them as my 8th seed over Utah, but I'm just a big Quinn Snyder guy as a head coach.
Those 3 teams will be really, really tight at the end of the year. I think you're right.
Yeah,
Chris, how do you feel about Memphis being Jeff's 8th seed in the West right now?
Surprised me at all. I mean, that's definitely an ascending team, and think they, they had Jaren Jackson Jr., maybe they're the 8th seed, but definitely John Morant is a superstar in the making. Like I said, Brandon Clark too, another guy.
Love Brandon Clark.
They got some dogs at Jaren Jackson Jr. I think he'll take that next step, and because he has superstar talent, like Jaren Jackson Jr. can be a superstar. It's like he's just so gifted, I think next year he can pull it together. And
they're bringing in Justice Winslow next year, which kind of hope that he stays healthy.
He's another guy. Injuries have really hurt his career. So if he could stay healthy, that's a guy off the bench. Who can play some defense and do and be a slasher for them. So that wouldn't be surprised if they're the 8th seed next year, because if John Morant, it's crazy. You could think John Morant could get even better. And if getting better is scary. Like that's
and I'm basing on that. I mean,
he's there. He could take that Derrick Rose next step, because he's
that Russell Westbrook, Derrick Rose.
That's a great comparison.
They took that next step, and then they took their games.
Just getting stronger, I think, is going to help his game so much, because he's got the feel and the vision. If he just
and this is why I put him up there too. I think that's going to happen. I'm just optimistic about that, because just strictly because I just enjoy watching him play so much. So that's what gave him the nod. I just couldn't force myself to say anything negative about it. So.
It hurt me leaving them out just because.
Too. I mean, Valanciunas was a monster.
Love
Valanciunas.
Love Valanciunas.
So, I mean, they got some good players. Tyus Jones too.
Tyus Jones, correct? Yep. They didn't have him last year.
They got a lot of Duke.
They could get rid of Grayson Allen.
Grayson Allen played good in the bubble. They got some.
He had a pretty good bubble. Yeah.
They could get rid of Grayson Allen.
He was good in the bubble. They got guys.
D'Anthony Melton was a great player for that team as well. So
Melton was good. They got guys. So it wouldn't surprise me if they're a playoff team.
All right. So Jeff, you have Portland, New Orleans, Houston, OKC, San Antonio, Sacramento, and Minnesota in that order in the West, rounding out your bottom teams. I have New Orleans, Memphis, Phoenix, Minnesota, San Antonio, Sacramento, and Oklahoma City, rounding out the bottom end of my Western Conference. Chris, how do you feel about the bottom teams that each of us have? You take a look at mine here, and then Jeff's right here.
Agreed.
Yeah,
I agree for the most part. Yeah, I think San Antonio. I think we're slowly seeing the decline of the Pop dynasty, where he's going to always make the playoffs.
I never thought I'd
last year, and I think it'll happen again. Sacramento just don't see. They have the pieces. To me, injuries too hurt them. I think Oklahoma City trades Chris Paul, so I think they take a step back. They won't be a playoff team.
They probably trade Steven Adams too, in my estimation.
Yeah.
I mean, they could.
I should have had Oklahoma lower.
Minnesota is another team where they have talent, but they're a weird team too. Obviously,
they're a piece away.
So
they might be a farm. They might be one of those teams that's going to be a farm system now. Like they might just constantly get their players.
They're going to score a lot of points. They're just going to give up just maybe
probably more than they put up.
They might have the worst defense in the league, but
here's looking at you, Washington Wizards.
Yeah, I don't. New Orleans to me, they have potential to be a playoff team, but I think they'll be outside right now if barring them making an acquisition or no. But yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Those teams. But it wouldn't be surprised if one of those teams are a playoff team because everyone's going to beat the crap out of each other.
It's the West, man. Like
I've got being pretty tight.
Yeah, it's going to be.
Yeah, Jeff has
45. You might see a 45, 44 win team not make the playoffs. Where in the East, the 8th seed will probably have 38 wins.
38 or 37. Yeah, that's how I see it also.
Yeah, Jeff, you have Portland, New Orleans, and Houston as your immediate 3 being excluded from the playoffs. I have New Orleans, Memphis, and Phoenix being my immediate teams being excluded from the playoffs. Those 3, either group of 3 that we have, Jeff, in the Eastern Conference, you're probably talking about a 5 to 8 seed.
5 seed. Yeah.
With New Orleans, Memphis, Phoenix, or Portland, New Orleans, Houston.
You're right. You figure I got Orlando. I got Orlando at 8. Utah, Memphis are all, to me, I think way better. But that's why I did the East and West, because I thought about doing power rankings, and I'm like, oh, this was get too convoluted to try and do the whole 30.
Yeah, it would, and I think it makes it a little bit more fun to kind of break it up by conference here. But that's going to wrap up our way too early power rankings here on Breaking the Game, brought to you by the Off the Ball Network. Jeff, Chris, it was a pleasure as always to have you gentlemen on. I greatly appreciate your time.
Always a pleasure, fellas. Always a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure. But before we close out, we're gonna, pay some bills, so to speak here. Do a little bit of close up work. Jeff, let the folks know where they can find you and some of the things that you have. You're a very busy guy, right? So I'll give you 10 minutes to tell everybody what you got going on.
No, I appreciate it. No, I got some things coming up. I do Jeff Needs Sports for the sports podcast. Going to start pushing some more exclusive content for the Off the Ball Network, which is going really great. I do, the NFL power rankings every week. Go check them out and yell at me. I'm going to start doing some college football rankings. My beloved Ohio State Buckeyes start this week, so I'm going to start doing a weekly recap show called the Buckeye Remix every week for the Buckeyes, and I'm still going to do the scouting report, which is like the preview of the coming football weekend, and then of course work with all the other guys. So you see us on here all the time. We got some good things going, and we're real happy about it. And I'm a busy guy, and every bit of it's fun. Really good time.
Excellent stuff. And moving on, Chris, here 10 minutes, because I know you're just as busy as I'm Jeff, right? So go ahead and take care of the bills.
Yeah, for sure. My girlfriend's gonna kill me with all the mold stuff I have to do. But Off the Ball podcast. You can find me on all podcast platforms. Obviously, you can follow me on social media, Off the Ball Pod. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Obviously go follow Off the Ball Network. Go offtheballnetwork.com for articles, podcasts and all that stuff. We got some good things coming up. My show debuts on Dash Radio tomorrow, which I'm super excited.
Excellent stuff.
On Nothing But Net Radio, so I'll make my radio debut.
It's great.
Kind of weird in a sense, because it's crazy. Like, I didn't think, I even have any type of radio, get the show on any type of radio. So it's kind of cool that, I'll have more people listen, more ears listening to the show. So you can catch me at 12 o'clock Eastern. I don't know, what is that? 11 I don't know.
11 Central, 9
you
Pacific.
guys know the time zones. You guys are
9 Pacific.
Yeah, 9 Pacific.
Yeah.
And then what's
Google it. Yeah.
I was about to say medieval times. 11. What is it? 11 Central. Yeah,
Yeah.
something like. I'm
Central,
sorry.
yeah.
I get my
Middle
confused,
Earth.
but
No.
yeah, but I 12 Eastern. So whatever time you figure it out, yeah. So it's 12 Eastern. So you can listen on there. 12 to 1. You can listen to the show. So I'm excited about that.
No, that's super great, man. That's
yeah.
much deserved.
It's incredible stuff.
Yeah.
It's a big step.
I
We're
did the
looking
show
forward to it.
today, and it was weird. I haven't talked to myself. I'm used to doing. Obviously, if you listen to my show, I usually have a guest or two or three or whoever, and doing a show by myself, I had to get back to the old roots. How it first started. So that was fun, but excited about tomorrow to get more meet people, listen to the show. I think it will be a good show for people to for a debut show. So hopefully people check it out. And like I said, nothing but net radio on Dash Radio. Download the app and check it out. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, it's crazy, man. I started off doing a freaking show by myself, talking to my computer. Now I got I'm on the I'm on no, I'm on a radio, on a big time platform. So
That's
it's
great,
just
man.
it's
Nope.
crazy. Man. But the network's going great. We're pumping out stuff, and we're just gonna get better, which is cool. And so it's good times, right now. So I'm excited.
Excellent stuff, and yeah, well deserved, man. Congratulations on getting
Absolutely.
picked up on that radio. That's incredible.
It's crazy. It's crazy, man. It's crazy that people they care enough that they like your show to put you on a big platform where, I mean, there's over 1 million people that listen to this station. Like,
Wow, that's
I'm
great.
like, I mean, it's like,
That's awesome, man.
so it's cool. So I'm excited for more people to listen to the show and get a little insight of how I do things. And so I'm excited.
Yep, you should be.
Awesome stuff. And as for me, again, just real quick, guys, keep Austin and his family, in your thoughts and prayers. I haven't got any updates yet, but just continue to do that. Thoughts and prayers are with his family. But as for me, Stephen Gillespie here on the Breaking the Game podcast. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast. I'm part of the Off the Ball Network, just like these fine gentlemen. I had my bosses here on the show, and it went all right. So it's a good. Anytime I get to link up with you guys, it's a good day. So appreciate you guys coming on. You can find me on social media at Stephen BTG, which is for Breaking the Game, or BTG NBA Pod on Twitter or Instagram. And go check out offtheballnetwork.com. Chris and I do the NBA prospects, player profiles. So those are coming out. Got another one in the works that I'm going to be putting on here soon. So go check that out.
I got one I'm working on today too. I forgot to mention.
Nice.
I got Sam Merrill.
You guys are always working.
I got Sam Merrill out of Utah State. He's one of my favorite guys. So I'm working. That'll be out today. I'm actually working on it right now as we speak. So that's
excellent stuff.
Today. So
excellent stuff.
Today. Yeah.
Breaking news coming to you first, Aaron. No, but yeah, go check that out, guys. As always, gentlemen, this is a great show. Love working with you guys. And for all you guys watching or listening now or later, your support is vital to what we do. Really appreciate it. You guys are the reason why we do what we do. And we love doing it. So just continue to support us. We're growing, developing, getting sponsors now. We're, getting different outlets.
That. Yeah. I'll break that officially. Yeah. So we got a sponsor, which is pretty dope. Like, so we're working with Monkey Knife Fight, which is pretty cool. They're a daily fantasy network, a platform. So I'm excited to get to work with them. And, so like I said, man, the network keeps going strong. So make sure to follow, we'll have more details on that. I'll send the guys over some stuff, and, we'll have more details on so go follow the website, obviously go Off the Ball Network, and you'll have some more stuff there. And also on the social medias, I'll follow Off the Ball Network on Instagram, and go follow OTB_network on Twitter. So we'll have more details in there, but excited about that partnership with Monkey Knife Fight.
Excellent stuff. Yeah. So just again, guys, go check out all the great work that we have going on at the Off the Ball Network. And we'll catch up with you guys next time. Take care of yourselves, love each other. Don't be racist, brush your teeth, wash your hands. Am I missing anything, gentlemen?
No, I think you covered it this time, man.
I think
Go vote.
Go vote. Yep, we're always adding one, right? So go vote too. We'll add that, and
Yep.
next
Be
week
kind
we'll
to each other, people.
get a
Yep.
haircut. Get a haircut. Shave your beard, Steven. So go and take care of yourselves and take care of everyone around you, and we'll catch up with you guys next time.
Yes. Take care, guys.